Hey friends, it's Jake from the Unlaced Podcast. Welcome to episode 2. Today we had the awesome and energetic Adam Gibson on, NBL Veteran who's played in the league for over 15 years. In this episode he goes into his journey across the league, playing for a couple of franchises that aren't around anymore, his time at the London Olympics and how he's planning for life after basketball. We hope you enjoy it and thank you again for tuning in. Gibbo, my man, how are ya?
I'm good, man. Not too bad. Obviously stuck in isolation and gone a little bit stir crazy, but it is what it is. We just got to make the most of it, I suppose.
Yeah, I know. I've actually got, man, you don't understand what's just happened here, why we started this call 15 minutes late. But I'm working with Ethan and Will from Room 10 company, and they're like the film guys, you know, they're helping me out. But one of the light bulbs exploded.
This is what happens when you have your production, mate. You got to handle these little situations. They do all the hard work.
Man, I watched a couple of Gibbo Goes One-on-One. You've done a lot of episodes, and what you're saying, you started them when we went into lockdown, right?
Yeah, so pretty much the first week of lockdown, they were like, yeah, let's start them up. And literally since then, I've been doing them. So I think I've done about 22, maybe 23 now. And that just shows how long we've been in this lockdown for. It's been a lot of fun. Obviously, I've had some pretty cool guests, mainly NBL basketball players. But to be able to kind of expand and talk to guys like Peter Siddle from the Australian cricket team, it was a lot of fun. Some AFL guys and obviously I'll try and get more athletes like that and expand to different sports, but it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, you're an athlete. How do you prepare for them out of curiosity? I mean, are you just going in rogue or are you giving some prep to it? What's your style?
Nah, giving a lot of thought. Most of the guys I've known, so I've got a bit of background, but I normally either jump online and check out the bios of what they've done in their career, but then ask people or put up posts. You can find a lot on the internet, but I normally ask a close mate, a brother, a sister, a family member of information about them. And I put up a post on Instagram as well, just to, if anyone wants to ask a question or, you know, has something funny that they might think is good to bring up.
That's awesome, dude. I saw you actually did one with Paddy Mills. I know he's one of your good mates. He strikes me as a guy that's just so down to earth, like a guy that's almost sitting at a family barbecue and you wouldn't know he's got a couple chips to his name. You know, he just seems very humble and
I think he was my second guest I had on there, and I've changed a lot since then. I think I talked to him for probably about an hour and 15 minutes, which is it's a lot. That's a long podcast, but for me it was just getting to catch up with him because, you know, we've been best mates for ages, but he's always been overseas. I've been here in Australia, so it was great to chat with him and catch up. But you're right, you wouldn't know he's a multimillionaire, like, you know, won NBA championships. He doesn't consider himself a basketballer. He doesn't want to be known as that. So it's pretty awesome to have someone like him represent not just basketball, but Australia with everything going on as well.
Yeah, man. He's awesome. It's like one of the guys you can always rely on to perform for the Aussie team, which is, and even San Antonio to an extent, like when stuff, you know, is happening in the playoffs, he seems to be a guy that stands up, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I was talking to him. He's also, what's awesome, I think, for him is obviously the Spurs have had that massive tradition and history of that club. You know, Tim Duncan, Parker Ginobili, and he's now like kind of one of those guys. Like he's a leader of that group, and Pop goes to him and knows that he's, you know, one of the main guys. And for someone that come from Australia to be part of that club and to have that kind of, I guess, to be known as one of those guys is pretty awesome for him. He's up there in the record books with a lot of different stats, and he's obviously done really well.
Man, that's crazy. And I guess just to build a little bit about your career, I mean, I didn't realize you played in the NBA for, is this your 15th or 16th season? You've been around. You're an NBL vet, man.
Yeah, I've been in the NBL for a while, straight out of the Australian Institute of Sport in Canberra. Beautiful AIS. But yeah, 15 or maybe going into my 16th. Played a lot of different teams and 400 and something games now. And it doesn't feel like it's been that long. I still feel like I'm 25. I've got to start coming to reality soon, but I mean, it's pretty awesome coming from Tassie to play, I guess, that long in a professional league. I think I'll look back on it once I'm done and retired, but for now I'm just living every kid's dream to play pro sport.
Man, that's great. Yeah, I feel no matter how skillful you are, to play at the top for that long, you got to have more than just a jump shot, you know, or be skillful. I think it takes a lot on the body and the mind. So to be able to have that durability, testament to you, man. That's just unreal. And you are from Tassie, so your basketball journey kind of began, I guess, probably in Tassie, but you made the move to the AIS before the NBL, so around, I think it was 2004, right?
Yeah,
I
went from
give us
Tassie.
insight into what it was like at the AIS for you?
It was different, man. Like, obviously leaving home for the first time I think I was maybe 15, 16. Never left home. I didn't want to leave home. Didn't know anything better than being around, the family and whatnot. So that was pretty daunting. I think what makes it so much easier is every other athlete that's doing it is doing the same thing. So they're leaving home for the first time. We all live, back then it was like a little jail cell. So you have like your little room with a little sink in it. And so you have 11 other guys that are all your same age that are doing the same thing. So it was a lot of fun. I've still got Paddy, like great mates, Joe Ingles. And obviously you meet other guys from different sports there, netball, soccer, kind of everything, gymnastics. So it was a lot of fun. Obviously it teaches you a lot of life lessons. I've moved house a lot, and I remember this is a long time ago, obviously being a little bit older, but they teach you how to cook, you do cooking classes, how to write a resume, and I had like a floppy disk of like a resume that we got taught how to write a resume. So that was in a box. I found it was pretty cool, but for a young kid to go in there and learn life lessons like that's pretty important.
Yeah, you would have been in the old residence, because I went to the AIS. I actually went to the AIS with Creaky. He probably doesn't remember me, but we were soccer players were hated there. I mean, we were little shits.
I still got some mates from that soccer, but I think it was cool. I think it was cool, man, because just everyone, like, it was awesome just to mingle with different sports. And Tassie's like not out of Australia, but like it's kind of its own little island, and you don't really see a lot of different pro sports teams, especially back then. So to go and see other athletes from different sports and kind of like a little mini Olympics, I guess, of just different sports and people mingling at, the dining hall and all that stuff was a lot of fun. It's
so unique to any sporting experience, I feel. Like I can't think of anything like it. Essentially, all the best athletes in the country, or the prospective athletes in every sport, living in the same place. It was kind of like a prison for sport in some ways, because as fun as it was quite repetitive in the cycle of what you did. I mean, you just train, sleep, and eat.
It was tough. Like I definitely noticed, like, early on, adjusting to training 3 times in a day. So you get up and you train at like 6 a.m. Then you'd have to go to school, because obviously everyone's still in school at that time. So you get the bus to school. You got to come back in your lunch break and do an individual, eat lunch, and then quickly go back to school on the bus. Finish up school and then come back and practice at night. Kind of eat dinner, go to sleep, or go to study hall. This is like 5 days a week. It was pretty intense, and I'm happy. I was so happy in my second year I was done with school, so I didn't have to go to school and back. But
me too.
It was pretty tough and pretty tiring for a young kid to have to 3 days in school in between and then study hall at night. It was
study hall was the worst, man. I changed from tertiary to accredited, so I didn't have to go 4 nights a week. I could go 2. So I kind of tried to dumb it down.
1 hour. It was pretty full on. Man,
it was crazy. And then I finished my second year, so I started doing the AIS tours. So I started walking the primary school kids around. But it's crazy, man. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because I know you've I guess had a pretty awesome NBL journey, and I'm aware of some of the awesome things you've done across the NBL, but I really want to get some insight. And you're the second Olympian the second guest and the second Olympian we've had on, to, I guess, what it was like for you at the London Olympics, and maybe just getting a bit of insight into, off the court in the Olympic Village. That whole experience must have been just amazing.
Yeah, well, obviously, like the playing side of things, the thing that's kind of tough about it, well, not tough, but basketball or, team sports, you kind of play the whole 2 weeks, where like swimmers, for example, they swim for the first week and then they're done. So they're out, like, they're enjoying the village, they're enjoying, the food hall and the Maccas and whatever, and like other sports do the same thing. So that was tough to get, I guess, your head around. But just being in the village, again, kind of like the AIS, where you're just walking through and you're seeing, like, I've never seen so much lycra in my whole life. It was hot in London as well. So there wasn't a lot of clothing, but just all different countries and the colors and all the, different apartments with flags and all done up for each country. And the food hall, just Macca's and every kind of cuisine you could possibly think of is just all spread out in the one food hall.
That's amazing, dude.
Trying to go on and watch other sports during days off, if you weren't practicing or getting up extra shots.
Yeah.
It was pretty surreal, going for the opening ceremony was something I'll never forget. It wasn't a lot of fun as an athlete because you basically wait for 2 hours. The whole show goes on. I remember, I think the Spice Girls were playing and you could hear it. You could hear it out the back, but there was no screen to watch because athletes kind of walk out last. So just a lot of standing around, but just walking through and then walking around the track and people going crazy and all that kind of stuff is something I'll never forget.
Man, what was that feeling like when you walked out on the track when the guys are holding the Aussie flag and you got the blazers on and everything?
It was unreal. Like, obviously you just countries either side and just a massive kind of tunnel of people and just walking out there and just massive crowd filled up with, people, noise, show, like entertainment, dancers. I remember because Paddy Mills and Joe Ingles, they've obviously been before, so I was pretty tight with them, but they know like where the cameras are. So I remember like there's a cool photo of the three of us and you're not meant to take your jacket off. But for some reason we took our jacket off and they knew, all right, the camera's coming up. They knew when to look at the camera and kind of
you did a pose,
play it up a bit, play it up and have some fun. I got a pretty cool photo of that where we got our jacket off looking at the camera.
I think I've seen it. I don't know how. I think I've seen it somewhere. Because I remember that Olympics. I feel like you guys had a really good Olympics and performance, and we got knocked out by the US, didn't we? In the quarters.
We had a great kind of tournament, some really good games. Obviously we beat China. Brazil was a tough game. Paddy hit a game winner against Russia. I don't think that mattered too much, but the games were awesome. We beat Great Britain, 8 o'clock game. I think we were down by 10 or 15 in the first half, and then we just caught fire and just completely turned it. And that was one of the funnest games because normally you play at like 11 in the morning. Like you get the worst time slots. USA get the best. So we finally played Great Britain on their home court, and it was, I think, 8 o'clock at night. And we were first quarter, we were getting our butt handed to us. And then the second half, we just turned it around, and that was awesome. But, yeah, we played USA in three-quarter time, maybe a couple of minutes into the fourth. Was close. And then Kobe just goes bang, bang, bang with 3 threes. And
man,
before you know it, the game's done.
I remember it. I feel we were with them for up until half-time, even three-quarter time. And then the last quarter, it's like
it was close. It was back and forward. Paddy was playing well. Joe was playing well. It was so close. And then Kobe legit just went three threes in a row, and it was a 15-point game.
Man, that's over. Crazy. What was it like? Did you get on the court that game? Were you there?
No, I didn't. I had the best seat in the house.
The towel wave.
Some of the best players in the world. Like I didn't play a lot, and obviously that happens. I played a few minutes against. I played against Brazil. I think against Great Britain and stuff, and it was awesome, scoring your first points in the Olympics. But that happens when you have an unbelievable team, and I'm super stoked to be part of that team. But it was crazy. We were there, and obviously USA who they are, and Kobe, like I said, just was like enough of this and just iced the game.
What was it like when Kobe and LeBron were on the court and you're sitting there? I mean, are they really that? Are they on just such another level that it's when they switch it on, you can't stop it? What was it like from your view?
To be honest, I don't like. It's a bit of a blur, that whole game. I remember sitting there and watching a little bit. I remember Russell Westbrook is like one of the quickest players to cover the floor. I remember him guarding Belly one time, and it was all into him and just so quick and whatever. But I can't really remember too much else.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're super freaks, like massive players that can just run, jump, everything stronger.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Australian program right now is in great shape. I'd be, as they would be, disappointed if they don't medal in Tokyo.
Yeah, I feel like the currently Aussie basketball. I don't know from you're in it, but my view from outside is that the NBL and basketball in general is just getting bigger in this country each year, and it's probably because we've got so many great players now playing in the NBA and being key players in big teams. Do you feel the NBL is getting more traction from that?
Oh, no question. Since Larry Kesselman and his team took over, I think 5 years ago, it's just gone to a whole new level. Obviously, the NBA players are in the NBA and making massive noise with that stuff. But I think Larry and his team, taking NBL games for preseason to play against NBA teams is something that you would never have thought, 7-8 years ago, how the league was going. So him bringing his team in and doing that kind of stuff, playing against NBA teams in preseason, it's pretty special. Like you said, the NBA games, obviously the NBA, the Boomers versus USA game last year in Melbourne at Marvel was another massive step. And yeah, I credit a lot of it to Larry and the NBL for building the sport in Australia. And that allows us to get, RJ Hampton, LaMelo Ball to come out here and play. Like that. That's what game.
I wanted to ask you about LaMelo. What was that like? What was he like to play against? You would have played against him, I assume, when he was at Illawarra.
Just the height of him. Like I missed the first game, but I played against him, I think, one time. Just he's so tall and just kind of athletic. You have position on him, but then you can just jump over your back and just grab the ball. Like he'll be a great player, no question. I think he'll for sure go number one. Yeah. I've talked to a bunch of their guys about him, and down-to-earth guy. Obviously, it's a massive shit show of just cameras and, he's signing autographs and there's no one else to sign. Like, all the kids are lining up for him and no one else is getting
the LaMelo show, man.
LaMelo show. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, he's a super talented kid and he's so young as well.
Yeah, man. I'm excited to see where he goes. I reckon he'll go number one, too. I'm sad I actually didn't get to watch him play while he was down here. It was short-lived in the end. But, yeah. I guess one thing we've both experienced you've had an incredible NBL career. What have you won? A couple of championships, Defensive Player of the Year. That's got to be above the 2 championships. That's big, man. And then you've been in the All-NBL Second team a handful of times too. So Gibbo knows what he's doing, man. Gibbo knows how to play. But one thing I realized actually, and similar to me, and maybe a reflection of some of the growing sports in Australia, is you've played for a lot of franchises that aren't around anymore. And I'm keen to get your side of what's that like as a player when, you're playing for a franchise that's doing well and all of a sudden it's just poof, gone.
Yeah, it's tough. Like the first team, Brisbane Bullets, who are obviously now back in the league, it was my 3rd year. We won the championship the year before. So I'm thinking, here, second year in the league, I've got a championship. This is easy. The next year we lost in the semis, and then our owner, he went bankrupt or whatever, and the league fell under. And I was so young, I clueless, had no idea around what was going on behind the scenes. So that was nothing. I moved down here to Melbourne to the South Dragons, Gorgon, Ingalls, Worthington, unbelievable team, win that championship. Man. So I've now won 2 championships in 4 years. I'm like, man, I must be some kind of lucky charm. But after that year, the Dragons pulled out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, hold on a minute, what's going on here? Because the league were going through changes and a whole bunch of. So now I'm like, well, this isn't right. So whatever, went from Melbourne, went to the Gold Coast, back to my original Brisbane Bullets coach, Joey Wright, who was on the Gold Coast now, was there for 3 years, and then that team folded. And I'm like, now I know kind of what's going on. Now I'm like, well, this is ridiculous. It's not me. I'm not stealing all the money. I'm not taking all the cash. Like, why? But I think the league was it wasn't in a great position, like ownership and the model and everything it just wasn't right. So, that was my 3rd team in 6, 7 years to fold. And that's kind of what I've said a bunch of times now. Like probably 10 of my 15 years, the league has been in such bad shape that I wish I was starting now. I wish I was a young kid starting now. 100%. You make more money, bigger profile, better opportunity. Who knows where the career could have gone, but just so have it that kind of happened. So from the Gold Coast, went to Adelaide, and finally after Adelaide got to make a decision myself of where I want to play. Like it took that long, kind of 10 years, and now I can choose. But it was tough to kind of deal with, and that's why I give so much credit to Larry and his team now for where the league is at compared to what it was, because there were teams pulling out all over the place. Yeah,
man, that instability as a player must have just been. Because I had it once in the Gold Coast. I think I was at the Gold Coast when you were at the Gold Coast, and then we were in Adelaide when you were in Adelaide as well. Yeah. But it was just like all of a sudden you feel it's just gone, and your careers now you're looking elsewhere, and it just changes the whole situation for you.
I think I'm pretty lucky because I was obviously younger when I was going through it all, so I could always go to another team. But there's been so many players, whether fringe players or whatever, that have lost their job from basketball because of teams folding. Like it's killed so many jobs. And there was 13 teams, I think, when I first started. It's gone down to 8. 9 now. So it was kind of five teams have gone. That's 50 jobs that, when there's not that many to start with, it's a fair chunk.
Yeah, man. It's hard to take, but it seems like for me that the league's in such a strong place now, and I'm keen to understand, I guess, that the energy around Melbourne, and you've come back to Melbourne, which I guess is probably a bit of a second home to you, being close to Tassie. But what's the energy around, I guess, the newly formed Southeast Phoenix and the franchise you're a part of now?
It's unbelievable, mate. It's probably one of the most professional teams I've ever played for, and this is 1 year. There wasn't even a year into the whole thing being reborn or being started up. The way the club put everything together from the staff, top to bottom, I give Tommy Greer, an ex-player, a lot of credit. He's obviously been through as a player, worked with the NBL, now a GM, the ownership group. But, from top to bottom of, first time I've ever had to have a chef to cook us food. And
wow.
I don't know what it's like with footy, but, stuff, little things like that just make our job so much easier. Now, always as a brand new club with a brand new team, you're probably not going to have a lot of on-court success. We won our first 5 games. The second half of the year we won't talk about, but as far as a professional team starting out, it's one of the best I've been at. And I think being out in Southeast Melbourne, where the participation rate of kids, it's just through the roof. So the support and 8,000 people to our home games at Melbourne Arena it was so much fun to be a part of.
Man, that's probably the one sign you do want in your first year is the club's professional and it's ambitious. And the on-court's going to follow in time, which I'm sure it will. So I guess, Creaky's a part of the team now too. So I'm seeing his haircut floating about while he's dunking and harassing the opposition. It must be cool to play with one of your best mates who I know you're living with as well.
Yeah, I mean, they brought him in as a franchise player. He was in the NBA for a small stretch. A great guy for the club. Does a lot in the community. Obviously, a great player as well. So to have him as one of our key players was massive for the club. He was borderline going to go to the NBA, and our club. This is what's so good about our club was everyone wanted him to go. Like we were going to lose him, but we all wanted him to succeed and go. That's and awesome, move on and make his dream a reality. And that's what's so good about the club. But to have him and the group we had was a lot of fun. And obviously we're going to make some changes for this upcoming season. But the core, I think, is what we really had locked in, established some values. And I'm sure you've been through it with clubs and what we want to be known as a club. And I think that's why we've had a successful year because we've done so much in the community as well. Yeah,
man, that's good. And I'm a Southeast boy, so represent, and that's awesome. I'm sure the people of the areas will get behind you. Actually, one of the things I was keen. Have you watched The Last Dance?
I have.
Man, that's the greatest documentary I've ever seen.
Unreal.
Unbelievable. Man, I wanted to after I watched it, I'm like, I want to go do some shot. I need to go get my shots in. Like, I can't even shoot, but I'm like, I need to go to the court. Like, I was so pumped. Yeah. Did you take anything away from it?
Just all the stuff you kind of see, like, you kind of, you see Jordan videos and highlights and stuff back in the day, but it just seems like it's so much more detailed of how he was. Like, I'm sure he was a nightmare to be around at sometimes, but that's why he won. I'm assuming Kobe was probably the same. Like, just demanded the best, was always hard on people. I feel bad for, I think, Scott Burrell. He copped it so bad all the time.
He did, didn't he?
You see Jordan winning, sprinting races and all that stuff. And just, I guess, his perception of how people thought they could guard him. When you see like Gary Payton and these players talking about, how they could guard Jordan, and he's like, I had no problem with GP. Like, he was nothing. Like,
he starts
all
laughing.
That stuff I love because I think he's the best player ever. And obviously there's others before and after, but just that mindset and just the way he laughs, like, he could not guard me. I had no issues with him. Like, just all that stuff I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, man. They give him the iPad. I think it's Gary Payton, right? They give him the iPad and I got you. He just starts laughing. Like, come on, man.
Laughing.
The glove. I had no problem with the glove. Yeah, man.
I loved it. It was awesome.
No, people like Jordan and Kobe, I mean, they inspire me for what they did on the court. But one of the things that I've been promoting with this podcast is like the whole transition coming out of sport. And Jordan essentially made more money outside of basketball using his platform to be better. And Kobe, rest his soul, was on the path to doing just amazing things off the court too, which I took a lot of inspiration from. And I know you're at a point in your career where every year you're loving life and, you know, lapping up what's there to have. But at the end of the day, you're probably having a bit of an idea of what's next too.
Yeah.
So what's that kind of like for you? I remember we spoke the other day. It was quite funny. You said, yeah, people have been asking me this question for 10 years, what I'm doing next. And I've never known.
Literally probably 24, maybe even younger. What are you going to do after basketball? And I'm like, well, I've got no idea. Hopefully I can play for the next 10 years. Now that 10 years is getting close to coming up, but
Yeah.
I've definitely, I still don't 100% know. I love basketball. I want to be involved. I think I'd be a great coach. That's my ultimate goal. I know there's not a lot of jobs, probably not great money for that. That's why, starting my own podcast and starting to do some other stuff around media to try and stay involved in the NBL in basketball somehow is the ultimate goal. That's just what I love. I think I'm really good at, reading the game and delivering it back to kids and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I want to do. Whether that will happen, I don't know. So, doing podcasts and working with the NBL behind the scenes to try and establish some other things. Also, I love, we renovated our house in Brisbane kind of 2 years ago. So I remember being to the AAS and doing sport and woodwork and putting a few little things together. So that's something, another passion as well. But
Yeah.
I find it kind of hard training and trying to become a builder or a carpenter kind of while I'm still playing basketball. So that's something that I would like to do as well, kind of flip homes and stuff. But there's nothing set in stone. But I think if I had my time again, I probably would have studied or, some kind of TAFE course, just to add a few little things, a business course, whatever it may be, just so you've got a little bit of this and a little bit of that, just as backup plans.
Yeah, that's interesting to me because it's hard for my situation. I kind of came out of the sport young and it was wasn't necessarily my choice, where you're in a great position where I guess it's a bit more in your control and how you're going to phase it out. And it is a bit scary. It's a bit daunting when you're going, you've been wired to basketball since, I guess, wired to make it to the top since you were 17, 18, living at the AIS. And then all of a sudden it's, you're looking at other ways to stay around basketball, but it's not the same as a player. So, do you fear what's next? Are you excited for a change maybe?
Yeah, I don't know fear, but I'm definitely concerned of how I will be when I can't go and run around. I've never been like a showy kind of hype me up kind of person, but you obviously, to be able to say I'm a professional basketballer or I'm an athlete, that's going to change. Just little things like that. People stopping you here and there, but not being able to train and run around and do what I've done more than kind of half my life. I think that will be the hardest change, and that's why hopefully I can stay involved in the sport, so I can at least be on the sidelines and tell people to go and run around like I used to.
Yeah. This is what I would have done.
The same kind of feeling, I guess, emotion and all that kind of stuff, without the physical side. But I think I'm assuming for most athletes that would be the toughest, is once you're actually done and you don't keep doing what you've done for the last however many years, that would be the hardest adjustment, I think.
Oh man, just the going from playing in front of, for you in packed stadiums to, that's what you build up for each week, that performance, to hit that jump shot. So then, your Saturdays are coaching kids or, doing something else. It's so weird.
Be so different. Yeah. I don't think I'm going to go to the supermarket and someone hype me up or,
yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think that's what I'm most not afraid of, but how will I handle that transition, I guess, and that's hopefully I've got some things in place to keep me busy enough and occupied enough to not have to worry about it.
Yeah. Did the NBL? I mean, do they have anything in place to kind of help players? Is there anything from a system point of view that's there to support?
Yeah, the last with the Players Association, again, probably the last 4 or 5 years, it's become better, and there's grants and money in there if you want to go and study, or there's specific people you can go and talk to for help around that kind of guidance and counseling and all that kind of stuff. So there's stuff in place if you want to go and become a trade or study. There's grants there for you to be able to afford to do that while you keep playing. So they've definitely done a better job, and that's something I think will improve in the near future. Moving forward, is helping the transition of athletes moving on.
Yeah. Do you give any advice to, obviously, a senior player and a leader, a part of your team? Do you give advice to some of the younger players coming in of how to either be more professional, to be better on the court, or to have better balance in their life?
Yeah, all the time, probably more on court and how to be a better athlete, better player, better pro. Turning up early. I get frustrated when people just rock up at 8 o'clock for an 8 o'clock weight session. Like, get in 15 minutes before and do a little bit of extra work, lift a little bit heavier. Get to the court a bit earlier and work on your game. Grab a coach, shoot more shots. That's something I've always kind of done, even from a younger age. Is one, I've always tried to lead by example as a captain of teams, and if I do it, then they should follow. But when you can't do it as much yourself, being a little bit older, you can't put in as many hours because the body's breaking down a little bit. It's more, telling people to get in early or holding people accountable that way. So that's something I've definitely tried to focus on probably the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Outside of the Southeast Phoenix, what was the best time you were playing basketball? I mean, when was it like you were at the top in a great team, a great franchise, just winning? Like,
well, the year I was in Melbourne was one of my funnest years playing wise, because the year before the team was, I think, 5-25. The year we all kind of came in, Worthington, Mika Vicona, 2 great imports. Brian Gorgian came to coach, and we went 25-5. So for 5 losses out of a whole kind of year was unreal. And living in Melbourne for the first time as a 22, 23-year-old.
A lot of time. Yeah.
1 game a week was a lot of fun, playing and starting in front of Melbourne Arena again, the same stadium with 10,000 people. That was unbelievable. That was a lot of fun. The year we won it with the Bullets, I think we won 21 games in a row. This is 13 years ago now, but as far as playing wise, I had to be involved in that. And then the Gold Coast years, they were a lot of fun. Bigger role, one of the main guys. Living on the Gold Coast, as you know, is a lot of fun as well.
It's epic. That's why the teams fold there, man, because everyone's having too much fun. They forget what's going on. They're the real world, why we're there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, those years, I mean, yeah, obviously some tough years with, teams not doing so well. Adelaide was some good years in Adelaide as well. So everywhere I've been, we've kind of had good teams, but they're probably the main couple.
But do you have a specific kind of idol or basketball mentor that was really pivotal for you in your career?
I think probably CJ Bruton. Looked up to him as a player before I was an NBL player myself. And then was lucky enough we were on the same team that second year in Brisbane. So he was playing in Sydney the year before. And even playing against him then in my first year, he'd grab me and talk to me and help me out with just some stuff, little bits and pieces here and there. And obviously he joined us that next year, and just learning from him, the way he plays is obviously phenomenal, but not a selfish player, gives so much time to everyone else, no matter on or off the court, and Olympian. And so and I still keep in touch with him. He was an assistant coach in Brisbane when I went back there, and someone I still keep in touch with now. So he's someone I looked up to as a player, but also helped me off the court as well.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I remember him playing as well. He was a point guard. I remember he had the afro for a couple of years. Yeah,
he was so smooth, man, because he could shoot 30 shots a game, but he would pick and choose. He'd make sure everyone else is feeling good and they're not butthurt because they haven't had a touch or had a shot. And then when the game's on the line, he'd knock down a couple of big shots. So yeah, he was awesome. He's a funny guy as well.
Do you feel now you've gotten older and I guess more experience with the game and the rigors of the NBL, do you look at the game differently? And have you adjusted how you play to suit, the teams and where you're at in your career?
Yeah, I guess a little bit. I haven't probably changed too much in how I play because, I mean, besides probably my first years, I was quicker then, but I haven't relied on speed and athleticism and all that kind of stuff to get me by. I'm not like a Kyrie Irving where I'm going to dribble the ball 48,000 times. I've always used my smarts to score or to play defense, and that's why I'm still playing, I think, now, because I'm a smart player. I know how to pick gaps and distances and not get too close to someone. I know where I can get a shot if I need to shoot the ball. I know if someone needs to shoot the ball and all that kind of stuff. So I haven't changed too much, I don't think, my game. I probably could have been more selfish at times and taken more shots, but just the way I am, not a selfish person. I prefer to move the ball around and just take what comes instead of forcing stuff.
Yeah, because you've always been really the guy for most of the NBA. I mean, in Adelaide anyway, when I was watching you, yeah, you were raining threes for fun, but you were definitely the guy there. So I guess and basketball for me is funny in that sense, because when I come from football, there's always, the best player on the team, but the team behind it is critical to making sure that everything moves and the best player gets their full potential. With basketball, I don't think people give that enough respect, because people kind of say, well, he's the franchise player. It's dependent on how well he does. But really the core team, the role players, everyone's got a role to play essentially, especially in a playoffs period or a finals period. So have you kind of shifted now from being the guy to someone who's got to drive team and perform, or do you still see yourself as, that's who I am, that's how I've played the game?
Yeah, and I definitely try and drive it. Like you said, if you have a weak link on the basketball floor, you're going to get found out. Especially nowadays, it's so easy to find a weak link. If someone can't shoot, you're not going to go out there and guard them. So you're essentially playing 4-on-5. It's a massive advantage. So you do have your main players and your stars and whatever, but if you don't have the guys around you, support cast, that's why I think Perth Wildcats have won so many championships, because they've had their right people and their right players. I talked to Damien Martin on a podcast, and you come in there, you know what your role is. You're brought in to do that job. Now, you can expand your offense and work on it and get better, but you do your job first, and that's all that matters. And I think that's why they've been so successful. So I think realizing what your role is super important. For me, I definitely had teams where I've been one of the main guys, and now I think just happy to play a role. I think I'm still unbelievably important to be on the floor and to control things and make sure everything's going smoothly and whatever, and taking shots when I need to, but just making sure guys are doing the right things and holding people accountable, I think it's become more important. It's a tough job. It's not always enjoyable, because you're always on people about doing the right things, and it can get tiring at times. You pretty much have to worry about everyone else besides yourself, but that's what being a leader is, and it just kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah, you've still got the 3-point shot. I saw you raining threes for fun last year.
I'll still let it fly, man. Don't you worry about that.
No, you dropped 25 points in 3 quarters last year or something. I was watching. I'm like,
you know what was most disappointing about that? We were playing against Cairns, and I think I had 26 that game, but John Robertson, who's one of the best point guards I've ever played with, happens to come out in the overtime, hit the 3-pointer to put it into overtime, but then I think he scored 15 points in overtime, and then he took all the credit. I'm like, yo, I just had 25. So
I've just gone nuts, right?
Damn you, John! Come on, man.
No, that's funny, man. That's funny. What do you think of the NBA bubble? Do you reckon it's gonna? Do you reckon the top teams are still going to win in that, or do you reckon the bubble kind of approach has flattened the competition a bit more?
I think it's evened it right out. Now, I think it's cool because the best team will win. Obviously, home court advantage is massive. You travel to Perth or you travel somewhere to play a game. It makes a massive difference where everyone's in the same place. There's no travel. Guys aren't out and about. So I think even the AFL, guys are fresher because they're not out doing anything they shouldn't be. And the same with the NBA. They're not traveling everywhere. They're just stuck in their room playing their game. So literally, I think the best team will win. It's definitely watered down a little bit, but I think it's cool.
Lou Williams, where was he eating wings at a strip joint the first week?
They're not all the sharpest tools in the shed, but the ones that are locked in, I think will win it.
Yeah. He came out and it's I probably shouldn't have been there. I'm sorry. Yeah, crazy. Do you, I guess when you look back on your career and even in life, is there some advice that you were given that's kind of always stuck with you and I guess helped you to become who you are on and off the court, or something you've kind of stuck by?
I had a saying when I think I was at the Institute, and one of the basketball girls put it up on the wall or something. It was kind of, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. It's kind of a corny little saying, but kind of you get out what you put in kind of mentality. So if you want to achieve something, you work your butt off, and good things will probably happen. Nothing's going to be given to you. You basically have to go and put in the work. And I've definitely found out that if you do work hard, for me, as an example, you do get rewarded. You put in the hours, you spend all the time in the gym, shoot a lot of shots. There's moments in games where that will come to the forefront, and it'll pay off.
Yeah.
It's all the little things as well. Taking care of your body at a young age. I was eating McDonald's and doing whatever because wasn't stretching and doing as much recovery because 23, 24, 25, it doesn't matter. But then once you start hitting a certain age, now you can't eat whatever because it sits on your body. If your legs don't recover, you can't just go and run around and play 3 games in a day, all that kind of stuff. So if I was talking to myself starting out again, I'll, probably eat better when I'm younger, even though you don't notice it until later on. Probably do more recovery and take care of your body a little bit better. I played through some injuries that I wouldn't take back, but I probably wouldn't do it again now that I'm dealing with stuff now. But, Joey Wright, a coach I had on the Gold Coast, toughened me up to not sit out and play through stuff. And that's kind of where I am now. But he toughened me up a lot for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like this.
I hobble around. I got 2 busted up calves, but
I don't understand the logic.
Life lessons. Life lessons. You can do more than what your body thinks.
Yeah, I kind of get that and agree with it and like it, but at the same time, it's like, I can't walk. You know. I mean, did you ever have any serious injuries in your career?
Yeah, ankles. Every probably basketball. Ankle injuries, had a clean out in 2016. My calves have kind of been the worst because they just kind of keep going, and actually had a procedure like a week ago with some injections that I think will hopefully help it. But no ACLs, no kind of Achilles, stuff like that, which is, knees and stuff. I've been fairly lucky, but just small little ones that have just been so annoying in 6 to 8 week kind of things.
Yeah. Can you give a perspective of what it's like for someone at the top when they're dealing with injuries? And I guess from a football perspective anyway, it wasn't like, I've got time off now. It was almost like once you're recovering, you're working harder and you're working on your own in isolation a little bit.
You never want it to be injured ever because you can't. I prefer to run around on court than sit on a bike and pedal for 30 minutes.
Sucks, man.
Hate the bike.
Yeah,
you're definitely doing more on the sidelines trying to keep fit because it's harder to get that fitness up than running around. So, that's absolute killer. Just being injured, being off it wasn't a lot of fun. That's for sure.
Yeah. Because I'm keen to also understand, and as I guess you're towards the back end of your career, and hopefully you've got another 10 in you, which I'm sure you do with the jump shot that's still flying. But have you seen some of your former teammates who've come out of the game, and I guess some have probably gone on various paths, but some who've gone on to do well, and some who haven't gone on to do so well? What's that kind of been like? Has that raised? Because obviously one thing I'm really promoting is trying to bring forward, athlete transition and the importance of it, because there are a lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunities. And one thing, I guess, even in this interview that you reflect, Gibbo, is just like you're very determined, and your nature for hard work is so powerful to whatever you want to do next. But at the same time, a lot of athletes don't really know where to channel it because you've been so used to channeling it on the court. You become a bit of a deer in headlights when you don't know where to channel it off the court. Is that kind of, have you seen some of that with your former teammates? From your experience anyway?
Yeah, I've had some, Anthony Petrie, who I played with him for like 9 or 10 out of my 15 years. But he's always been a teacher. So he studied before he became a basketballer. So he's always had that to fall back on. He's now teaching, on the Gold Coast. Some guys have been to college and have degrees that will probably go and use them. I think Ty Weasley, who's now back overseas, I think he's had a degree. Ben Madgen has studied business and he's got some stuff. I think the guys that don't have degrees or have studied, well, obviously are going to find it the hardest to know what they want to do. A lot of guys kind of real estate. And I think what people don't really realize is, we don't have a degree, but the skills you have from playing team sport are next level. The teamwork, the competitive, the commitment, the hard work, all things that you need to play basketball, the communication side of things.
100%.
It's not on paper, but you have these skills. I was talking to Cole Adnam, who plays with us. He's studying something in the sporting industry, and he's basically can tick off a lot of his hours because he's been involved in the sporting environment for so long that he has those skills already. So I think tapping into what they are and where you can translate them into a different job that suits you, I think that's that's a challenge. But if you work that out, I think people can be pretty successful.
Man, I think that being a professional athlete is one of the best degrees you could ever have. As you said, you're in an environment where so many disciplines are at the highest level, but you're also in a very high emotional environment, because if you're winning, everyone's up and about, and if you're losing, everyone, you're the worst people ever, and it's a bad environment. And maneuvering through that and being a good person through that, I don't think a lot of businesses and various kind of industries outside of sport realize the potential athletes have. And I was speaking to someone in Sydney, actually started a business called Athlete to Business, and the success rate that he has of former players going into the corporate world or into different kind of sales roles and things like that. He goes that the performance rates are through the roof because of the traits that people have picked up from sport. It kind of echoes what you're saying, what you kind of have to be at a high level at from a performance, but with your communication and your training and dedication is second to none.
Yeah, a teammate from the Gold Coast, James Harvey, he was hired by, I think, a computer company or I don't know who they were, I don't know who they were, computers or internet or something. He knew nothing about it. He was basically brought in to be like a team leader to try and help build and boost team morale and all that kind of stuff around the office. Like I think there's so many jobs that you could tap into just from using our skills that we do acquire from playing pro sport. Yeah, man, you can't beat it. I guess for you, Adam Gibson, how many more years you got left in you reckon? Well, what do you? I've got this contract. I reckon as long as the calves hold up, man, I reckon I've got 3 years at least. Yeah, 100%. Are you 33? 33. I reckon at least 3 years. 100%. People put this whole, it used to be like, early 30s, you've probably done. Like Chris Paul today was busting up, Houston. He's like 35. Like LeBron, who knows how old LeBron is, but he's still dominating, best player in the world. Like, I don't know why put a number on it. Yeah, exactly right. Why put a number? But I don't know what it is. Even from a soccer point of view, it was like 10 years ago, everyone at 33, 34, it was like retiring. Whereas now, like Cristiano Ronaldo's 35, Lionel Messi's 33, and Lionel Messi's going to sign for like $1 billion somewhere. Then you look at LeBron, he's the best player in the NBA. He's 36 or something. Yeah. Man, you got endless jump shots, I reckon. Mate, like I said before, my game is not reliant on speed or jumping through the roof. Like I haven't had that for the last 10 years. As long as this stays somewhat sane, and COVID's not helping, but as long as I stay pretty sharp up here, I can keep, like, there's no reason why I can't, so. Do you invest? We'll see, but no, I was going to say, do you invest in like your mentality or your mental well-being at all, especially through this period? But is there anything you kind of do to kind of make that tick in a healthy space? Nothing particular. Like Mitch, he does a fair bit of stuff. I think he talks to someone a fair bit and whatever. But I've just tried to, now being a little bit older as well, like, and starting my podcast, it's kind of working with the NBL a little bit. It's kind of just opened my eyes up to more opportunities and, where I could try and do more things. So I think just keeping busy. And I think the biggest thing is with this stuff going on is just making the most of it. Like, what would I actually be doing now if I wasn't in COVID? Like, there wouldn't be too much. I'm saving money because I'm not out eating and spend money on petrol. Like, I've kind of twisted it and starting to think of the positives rather than the negatives. Awesome, I can't leave my house. I'm saving money. I'm spending every day with my dogs. Like, I don't have to go and do promos and work and so it's not all that bad. Is what people. It is shitty, but it's not great. Thinking of it the best way to get the most out of it. I've locked into like kind of a diet now where I want to come out of this with an end goal, and just setting new goals I think is pretty important. Glass half full mentality, yeah. But are you still able to get to the facility, like and shoot your shots and stuff? You still got the work permits for? Yeah, so we had a couple of weeks off. We had to shut it down for 2 or 3 weeks, but we're able to train 3 days a week now, which is good. It's not great when you see other teams around like Queensland are playing leagues and playing games, and so I feel pretty bad for us and United once we come out of this to start our season because we'll be way behind the 8 ball. But we can train 3 days a week, go to the gym 3 days a week, so it's not all bad. Oh man, I'm going to make sure hopefully when this is all said and done, I've got to get to a Southeast Phoenix game to see you flying around again, because I did enjoy watching you play your trade in Adelaide, man. So
I appreciate you coming on the podcast, man. This is episode 2. You said yes straight up, and I really appreciate that, man. You'll go down as one of the greats, and we loved having you on. Hopefully, we can get you back on soon.
Standard Johnny Mack, I seen was on first. I know him a little bit from Adelaide. We caught up with him once.
Yeah,
very smart man. I'm honoured to be on there, mate. I know it's a lot of hard work running a podcast.
It's different, man. For those out there that want to know the NBL and get closer to the NBL, you got to tune into Gibbo Goes One-on-One. Their weekly podcast with Gibbo talking to everyone, deeply ingrained in the NBL to athletes outside of it as well. So, man, get amongst the people if you're into it.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. All the best. We'll keep in touch, and I'll have a number 1 Gibson singlet waiting for you.
Yes, that's my boy. I'll rep it on the podcast. You know that. Thanks, brother. We'll be in touch.
Anytime, man.